this is Sebastian Hannecker. I'm COO, CFO, and founder of Flash Coffee, the fastest growing regional tech-enabled coffee chain in Asia right now. And I'm from the INSEAD 17B class.
My name is Sanjay Zimmermann. I'm a principal at White Star Capital. White Star Capital is a venture capital fund that invests across North America, Europe, and Asia. And I've been with the firm for close to 5 years now. I'm also a graduate of INSEAD, and so I graduated the class of 20J.
So Flash Coffee is actually the fastest growing retail coffee chain right now in Asia. We already have 50 stores in Southeast Asia, namely in Bangkok, Singapore, and Jakarta. And what we do different than established players, we're actually offering really high quality premium coffee at very, very affordable prices. For example, we are 50 to 60% cheaper than Starbucks for similar drinks like for a latte or Americano. And we can do that by passing on savings on real estate to customers. What does it mean? We actually fully focus on grab-and-go business. So our stores are much, much smaller, right? While a Starbucks store is usually between 150 and 200 square meter. For us, it's between 15 and 20 square meter. And so we really save heavily on the biggest cost driver of coffee chains, which is real estate, and really pass on these savings to the customer. And that's not only for the rental expense, but also if you think about if you invest in a coffee shop and building a coffee shop and you have 200 square meter to fill and you build all the flooring, you have a lot of tables, a lot of chairs, a lot of sofas and all that stuff. If you all don't have that, you save a lot of money on the initial investment. And again, you can pass on these savings to the customers. That's really what we are about.
White Star Capital, we were started back in 2014. The name White Star actually comes from the first transatlantic cruise line. And so the mission from day one was to serve as a bridge between Europe and North America. And so we started out with an office in New York, Montreal, and London, and started with a $70 million fund, investing in Series C and Series A companies initially. And then in 2017, raised a second fund of $180 million, opened up an additional office in Paris, and also brought on board a venture partner in Tokyo, and started initially looking at Asia and started helping companies from North America and Europe expand into Asia as well. And then fast forward to today, we're on to a third fund, and we've invested in close to 50 companies across the spectrum of B2C and B2B. So we've backed companies the likes of Dollar Shave Club in the US, Freshly, that recently sold to Nestle. We backed Butternut Box in the UK, that's become the largest dog food company out of the UK. We backed Tier Mobility in Europe. It's a large e-scooter player. And most recently have had the pleasure of backing Flash Coffee out of Singapore. And so we're quite excited to be partnering with entrepreneurs in different parts of the world and really serving continually on this mission as a bridge of connecting innovators across different continents and really helping them scale up from Series A, B, and beyond.
Yeah, we recently raised our Series A funding round, $50 million, and the lead investor was actually a White Star Capital, which is one of a top-tier North American VC fund. And the cool story behind this is actually that the leading principal of that deal from the White Star side is also from INSEAD. And we haven't been in the same class, but very close together, and both were basically started and finished in Singapore. And spent a lot of time in Singapore at the INSEAD campus. So we had a lot of in common, and we're actually introduced to each other, like more or less a year before the deal finalized. And we really had this natural sort of relationship from day one, just sharing the same background and just very similar mindset, sharing this experience of INSEAD and really worked well together and just stayed in touch. And since White Star Capital is much more focused on Series A, that was not, when we first met, was not yet really the not really the right time for them yet because we're still too small. But once we reach a certain scale and we reconnected again, and I'm so happy that thanks to INSEAD, then we managed to get this deal. And please note, as an F&B retail business during the pandemic, it's not that easy to fundraise because obviously we're quite affected. But we really managed to raise it right now, and I'm incredibly happy for that. And that actually INSEAD and my INSEAD network helped me to achieve that. INSEAD plays a huge role in our whole team structure and recruiting efforts. So it's really the number one target school for us for talent, because I just know from my own experience that whenever you work together or hang out together with another INSEADer, it's always you get along well together. Plus, usually people are very entrepreneurial and very intelligent in general. So for us, it just makes sense to really look for talent from INSEAD. We already hired a couple of key positions from INSEAD, namely our managing director for Thailand is a former INSEAD MBA. Our managing director for the next market we launched, which is Taiwan, is from INSEAD as well. And then if I just look at our investment board, one of our main investors is actually Delivery Hero, the parent company of Foodpanda, one of the highest market cap companies in Germany right now. And actually our board director, Jakob Angele, is a former INSEADer. And also Brandon Blaker, who sort of led the deal for Delivery Hero, is also a former INSEADer. And then mentioned before, of course, Sanjay, who was the leading principal of White Star, leading the last Series A, another INSEADer. So you really can see here a lot of INSEAD network at play at Flash Coffee.
I'd say that what's incredible about the INSEAD community at a macro level is just, it's great to have so many different individuals spread around so many different parts of the world that you can easily pick up the phone to, or these days you pick up Telegram and hit them on a chat and just have a conversation. And having had that shared experience of having walked through the halls of the Fontainebleau campus or the Singapore campus is just puts everyone right away, in this kind of virtual world setting where it's harder and harder to meet face to face, at a level of trust or a level of having lived through something. And Sebastian and I had that feeling when we first interacted too, where we, despite having not been in the same graduating classes or never having met while at INSEAD, when we started talking, we all had the same stories and had the similar experiences as we went through the program. And that just sets a layer of additional trust as you're having those deeper discussions after that. And so the INSEAD network's been really helpful in just having this broad database, or this broad kind of group of individuals in different parts of the world that we can talk to. And so amongst my graduating class, I've made friends in all corners of the world, and we're people that also, when the time came for us to do due diligence on Flash Coffee, for example, and I was in Toronto or in Canada at the time and couldn't travel because of the pandemic to actually visit the stores or try out the coffee. I actually relied on quite a few alums and classmates that were in Singapore, that were in Thailand, and were in Indonesia, and asked them, hey, if you have a moment, could you check out this new coffee store and tell me what you think and get their honest opinion. And it's been really helpful. It's kind of incredible to feel like there isn't a country in the world, or almost isn't a country in the world where you won't be able to find a friendly alum to talk to, and that you can bounce ideas off of, and I find that really powerful.
I think before I would actually go concretely on what INSEAD did on skills and learning, I would actually go as far as saying that without INSEAD, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here in this interview with you, because INSEAD really for me was the door opener to build a business in Asia. Because as you might hear from my accent and from my name, I'm German. And before INSEAD, I spent my whole career in Germany. But then really strategically chose INSEAD because of the campus in Singapore. I mean, of course, INSEAD, I heard amazing things from my colleagues at Bain. It's one of the top business schools, and sort of also has really like-minded people. So you have a lot of fun and meet great friends for life and just make great network. But for me personally, strategically, I also really chose it because of the Singapore campus, because I wanted to have this foothold and this footstep into the Southeast Asian economy, which fascinated me early on. And yeah, I mean, thanks to INSEAD, basically, even in the second period already, after 2 months, I connected with the local folks at Bain & Company, Southeast Asia. And I told them about my plans of moving to Southeast Asia post INSEAD, and we basically already, I mean, most people start recruiting in P4, so after 8 months. And I already started my recruiting after 2 months and basically already locked in the deal with Bain Jakarta back then. So right after INSEAD, I moved to Bain Jakarta, and 1 year after, I started building Flash out of Jakarta. So incredibly thankful for INSEAD in doing so. So that's like sort of the first part about just basically getting into the region and building a network and learning about the Southeast Asian economy. And I would say, like, really from a hard skill perspective, there's a couple of things. I mean, you can imagine as a founder, and I'm CFO, so finance as well. So in the early stage, you have to do everything yourself, right? You have to be really, really hands-on. And I was literally doing the accounting, right? Just as an example. So I think without my general skill set I had in classes like accounting, wouldn't be possible to do that effectively in the early stages of the company. Another examples are, for example, microeconomics. I mean, pricing really helped us in determining our own pricing at Flash Coffee. Then one last thing. I mean, INSEAD has a really awesome negotiation class. And I mean, in my role, I mean, I'm doing negotiations all day long, right? With future employees, negotiating packages, right? With suppliers, negotiating prices of our raw materials or equipment, with real estate landlords, negotiating prices on future locations we have, with potential partners for cooperation. So, I mean, this is basically, as a role as a founder, you negotiate day in and day out. And the sort of framework and skill set I learned from that class still helps me a lot in doing so.
So INSEAD for me was very intentional in terms of the choice that I'd made to go to INSEAD. I had been working in venture capital for White Star prior to attending INSEAD, and actually it concocted a bit of a plan with the partners and of our firm, who were super supportive in me taking on this journey to go to INSEAD. And the idea was that I would go to INSEAD and not only go there, to get an MBA, but really go there with the purpose of building a network in Southeast Asia and really using it as a launch pad to examine for White Star's investment strategy what does Southeast Asia mean, and really test the waters and get to know the ecosystem a lot better. And so INSEAD was instrumental in me building a network really rapidly on the ground. I had the chance while at INSEAD to travel to pretty much every country. And so that was really great. Beyond that, after that, what's been really helpful is through this network. As today I'm back in North America, I've been able to keep in touch with the region, and I feel like I've built a series of partners that I can really work with now going forward. And on top of that, in the classrooms, it's actually funny or coincidental. We have this Master Strategy Day at INSEAD, where it's a big day where we everyone has one big case to work towards and has to present their solutions for a given real world company. And the case that we had at the time was a case about a coffee business out of France that was looking to come into Singapore. So it was interesting. I learned quite a lot about the coffee industry while at INSEAD, which ended up being quite useful practically within a year time with the investment in Flash Coffee.
For future students who are thinking about joining INSEAD, I would say do it. So if you're still hesitating, please don't. I mean, it's just an awesome school with awesome people, with awesome classes. It's also just 1 year, which is great. So you can do it much quicker. And then 2 years, I think, is a bit long. I think 1 year is ideal for an MBA. So I'd really recommend in doing it. And also, especially from people from Europe who are also interested in working in this growth region of Asia, I would really recommend spending a lot of time on the Singapore campus. and building a network in the area, because I mean I'm the best example that basically doing an MBA abroad or in another geography can actually help you in your career going forward. And I think I mentioned before, I'm incredibly thankful for INSEAD that they basically, or the school helped me to get into this role I'm in right now.
The life at INSEAD, really, I think you have to look at it in 3 phases. There's what happens before INSEAD, there's what happens while at INSEAD, and then what happens after. And I think that during INSEAD is the easiest part, but it's the part that goes by the fastest, and it's an incredible ride, and it goes by in a flash. But so that's why it's really important to think about what you do before and what you do after to really make the most of that experience. And I think I definitely recommend, going on, there's always a trip that's organized before, going on that trip before, getting to meet classmates, getting to spend time on Telegram, on all the different groups that get created, and starting to build that community prior to starting. And I think in keeping that community alive after is my first big advice. The second advice I would give is, while at INSEAD, as important, and as quickly as the time goes by and you focus on your career and recruiting, I think it's also important to spend time with students that are from fields that are very different to what you've done in the past, or that are in completely other sectors. And even if that's not the sector that you're looking to work in or recruit in, have conversations, understand what motivates them, what they find interesting about their jobs. I think in a professional career, you often end up being quite siloed, and you talk a lot in an echo chamber of people that are in your own industry. And for me, one of the motivators also behind doing an MBA was getting outside of the finance world for a little bit and talking to people from all kinds of different backgrounds, and just recalibrating and getting a different sense on what are the different intrinsic motivations of different types of students. And you have such a broad diversity in terms of country representation as a nationality that on top of that, you've got a broad diversity in professional paths that you really should take advantage of, because there's rare moments in your life where you'll have that. And I think the last thing I'll say as advice is, despite the courses being really good at INSEAD, the best learning experiences I've found really happen outside of the classroom. And so just don't be shy to get involved, get on trips, get involved in different clubs, and really make the most of the INSEAD experience. It's funny, I feel like, and I was working in investment banking before INSEAD, and was working quite hard as well in VC at White Star prior to INSEAD. But it's funny that I feel like I got the least amount of sleep while at INSEAD, in terms of, and it's just because there's so many experiences and there's so many things to do, but in a good way. Like but I recommend you making the most of it. And after the year there, you can you'll have a lot of time to recover and rest from it. But it goes by fast, and I would say take advantage of every moment while you're there.